Hey, today's Tuesday, September the 9th.
I'm Bruce Turner in Lynchburg, Virginia.
I'm George Dosher in Jacksonville, Florida.
I'm Jeff Zias in Napa, California.
And I'm Robert Taylor in New Orleans, Louisiana.
Hey, I'm Duke Carrico on this edition of Tech and Coffee's Android Journal. Lots and lots of new stuff from Apple, Motorola. Hey, I'm going to get the panel's take. All this, our app picks, and more. Hey, gang, welcome to episode number 72.
Woohoo!
All right.
Hey, can we have a Chinese audio line going through this whole show for halfway through? Can we have that?
Sure.
Some Mandarin going through it. And then can we have our broadcast stop and restart several times? That'd be fun.
Yeah, with like one of those truck test screens. Yes, absolutely. I wish I'd have thought of that earlier. We could have worked that up, Jeff. Some great ideas there. Yeah, man. Hey, the Apple announcements went down today. We got a couple of new phones, a watch. We've got a Google Wallet competitor, maybe more than a competitor. I'll get you guys' take. But before we get there, guys, last week Samsung had just announced their new devices. I got you guys to give me your take on that. But there was a whole lot more to come out of IFA there out of Germany. And one of the biggest things to come was the Motorola announcements. And I was pretty impressed with those Motorola announcements. Let's start there, guys. First of all, the Motorola X. The Verge has said this might be the best Android phone ever. The Moto G looked very impressive to me. The Motorola 360. I'll tell you what, let's just start, first of all, the Motorola X. Now, Robert, this thing out of contract is $500. Looks like it's going to be very affordable on a contract, starting at $99. Okay? All of the criticisms that came from the original Moto X seem to be properly addressed in this new version. What was your take, man?
Well, that's kind of strange because the criticisms that were in the first version I didn't think were as big of a nuisance as the one thing that nobody really did complain about, and that was the battery life. I found the battery life to be a little bit lackluster. Granted, I'm coming from a high-capacity, high-performance battery phone when I had the Moto X in my hands. The phone worked okay. The improvements that they've made have, just incremental step improvements and certainly bumps it up. But I bought my Moto X at $350. And, of course, this was when they were dropping the line because they were getting ready to come out with the newer version. It pops back up to $500. Affordable? Yes. With these improvements, I still think it's affordable, but I'd still like to see this phone down below the $400 mark to really make a big, big impact.
Okay, and I think that'll happen. I do think it'll happen. It's kind of the trend. When a new phone hits the market, you see that higher price, and as time goes on, prices start dropping. I fully expect that to happen here. Absolutely. George, what do you think about the Moto X, man? You in or out?
Well, I'm probably out because I would get it. But I got my Blue 5.5 Studio. I still love that phone. I still cradle it. I fall asleep with it at night. I hug it like it was Jeff and pet its head. So, but look, it's a great device. I would get it if I didn't have the Studio.
Okay. All right. The Moto X didn't sell that well. The original one didn't. But people who bought it swore by it. And I think about Leo Laporte. Leo Laporte he's had about every phone out there. And I believe he kept the Moto X longer than any other device I've ever been aware of. I think it was a solid phone. I will agree with Robert's criticism. I think that the battery life kind of hurt it. But, you know, I think it's the best example of, you know, you take a phone and you give it, I'm going to call it lackluster specs, okay? But it worked. You know, it had some features that always on, always listening. So go figure. Hey, listen, man, the Moto G. You know, I bought my wife a Moto G, replaced an iPhone 5 with it. She absolutely loves that Moto G, and I mean, I'm looking at this one now. This thing is going to debut out of contract, guys, for $180. Okay, I mean, to me, this is a winner of a phone just because, first of all, they've upped the stats on it from the original. It's got a larger, higher density display, and man, $180 out of contract, guys. I think this is probably the best deal going in an Android device. Anybody want to argue with me on that?
Time out. Back the truck up, Duke. The Moto G that you bought for your wife had LTE on it. This new Moto G, they say, does not have LTE.
Yeah, what's up with that, man?
Now, I got to tell you, it might be all fine and dandy if you're just looking for a phone with some basic capabilities, but I got to be honest with you, if I'm stuck on 3G, I can't get 4G LTE, that phone does me no good. Everybody else is going to leave this thing in the dust. Now, maybe they'll change it and they'll do like they did with the original Moto G and come out with the LTE version later, but out of the gate, no LTE. And that is an absolute don't touch it, don't buy it, don't even think about it.
Yeah, I agree with Robert on that.
Shut the front door on that one.
Yeah, you need to have, that should be something that they should have, and I can't believe it's a cost issue, but for them to put that in there, to keep it on that under $200 price point. So, you know, I mean, how much is a LTE sensor cost or receiver? You know, it can't be that much, right?
Well, the licensing too, but even still, you know, it's not like LTE is a $100 or $200 licensing fee. You know,
Right.
like you say, and $20-$25 for the receiver and license. I think this is a major. I don't know who was the person who decided we're going to release a phone when you have things like the iPhone 6 coming out, you have the Note 4 that just came out, and yes, these are higher priced phones.
Yeah.
You look at what the rest of the industry is doing, and AT&T and Verizon are pushing their LTE specs. Matter of fact, Duke and I were talking this morning about ATE's leapfrogging Verizon on LTE availability across America. So to have a phone come out that doesn't have LTE, no way.
You know what I think? I think this Moto G is not targeted to any of us here in this hangout right now, all of which happen to be in America. I think this is targeted to other markets besides America that don't have readily available LTE access.
Well, I could go for that. I'd buy that excuse, but you're still announcing it here in America. You need to put a disclaimer and say that, these are for developing countries, not for first world.
Yeah, it's it's a little bit of a stain. It leaves a stain on these guys, you know.
Right. It doesn't make sense that this came out this way.
Okay, I've got the stats up here for people listening on audio, just kind of looking over them. Of course, it's 444 KitKat. It's a Snapdragon, 1.2 gigahertz quad core, 1 gig of RAM. It's got a single SIM, and you got two variants of it, an 8 and 16 gigabyte. 5-inch display. That's up from I think 4.7. 4.5. I can't remember what the other one was now, right off the top of my head. Yes, Robert's right. It's got all radios covered except for the LTE bands. 8 meg rear camera, 2 megapixel front camera. your typical Wi-Fi BGN.
Only captures the 720p.
Yeah, 720 at 30 feet per second. Absolutely.
30 frames.
Right. All right. Hey, man, we've talked about the X. First of all, let me run back to the X here real quick, guys. What do you think of the look of the X?
Oh, it's a nice looking phone.
It's got
Nice.
that little band on it. You know, you got the options there. The Moto Maker, you can get the different backs for it. I think it's a very attractive looking device. Absolutely.
It
But,
felt
you know,
good. It,
go ahead,
it
Master.
felt really good. You know, the original Moto X that I had was a solid feeling phone. You know, there was some build quality there to it. Now, I don't know about the leather back or the wood grain back, which I think are kind of Chotsky, gimmicks.
Yeah.
But, the bottom line is that the phone itself felt very good. This with the metal band on the edge now, plus acting as an antenna, that's pretty impressive to me. And I would bet this phone is going to feel the same way in the hand. It's going to feel pretty good.
When the first Moto X debuted, it was fully under Google's control. I think Google technically still owns Moto X, but all indications are it's all going to be Lenovo's here very soon. Guys, do you think that the Moto X is this going to be a successful product? Do you think it will compete with the likes of the HTC M8? Do you think that it's going to, the Samsung phones? Where's this thing going to shake out?
Hey, I'm going to jump in. I'm going to say that this phone is going to meet the needs of the people who don't want the iPhone 6 or the Samsung Note 4. In order to be competitive and capture that, what I would call the middle market, okay, you've got to bring the price of this phone down a little bit, back where it was, at $350 or so, and you're going to get that capable user, but not power user. This is not a power user's phone. It is somebody who wants to make phone calls, wants good, quick, internet response on the phone. They maybe do a hangout, maybe do some Facebook posting, but not a full heavy power user like any of us here. That's where this phone is going to excel at. Just drop the price down because it's got the specs, it's got the build quality. Just get the price down a little bit lower so you can substantiate yourself away from them high-end flagship phones.
I think what we need to see to make this thing successful, guys, is some marketing. I don't think a lot of people realize just what a great device this is. People like ourselves who follow this pretty closely might, but I think for Joe Consumer, we need to see a lot of television ads, a lot of magazine ads, that sort of thing. If not, I think this thing's going to languish down at the bottom of great phones that could but didn't.
And that would be sad. And you're right, because when somebody, I'm sorry, Jeff, I cut you off again. I stepped all over you. Let me get this one point out real quick. If you walk into a Verizon store, or you walk into an AT&T store, you can bet they're not pulling the Moto X off the shelf to show you.
Yeah, it's going to be a nice little display of the new Apple products. It's going to be right there. And now you can get a 5C for no cost for a 2-year contract. So I think they're going to suffer the HTC deal. Kind of like great phone, bad planning, bad timing. Nobody knows exactly.
Well, I'll tell you, smartwatches, we can't help but talk about them because they've been in the forefront here for several months. We'll talk about the Apple smartwatch too. I've got some questions to ask you guys, but the Motorola 360, the first glimpses that we saw of it, everybody got pretty excited about it. And then we learned that there's a limitation on the display of the Motorola 360. Now we're learning from early reviewers who actually have the units, I'm going to say on their wrists, that these things can't even get through a full day. Basically, you got to have 2 charges to take them in the nighttime. Okay, we've not been very favorable to smartwatches at all on this show. I don't think any of us are very excited about where smartwatches are right now. But learning this about the 360, suddenly it doesn't look like a very good deal anymore, does it, Jeff?
Well, you know, I'm watchless, so yeah, and I don't think that they are there, you know. But The Verge, you know, which is what we're kind of talking about tonight, that the article about The Verge, they gave them a kind of glowing review of the smartwatch. They really liked the 360. But for me, it's not something, I can't see stuff on my phone sometimes, much less, you know, read a small display that's not crystal clear about a message or something like that. So, you know, and if there's no battery life to back it up, you know, again, it's not going to be something that I would be interested in. Although there are things that I find interesting about it. I find interesting that you can do like you know, having the heart rate monitor and kind of keeping track with the fitness apps and things like that. And I kind of like the idea of remote control of your phone's camera, so you can take a picture or a video and frame that with your watch. I think that's kind of cool. But other than that, you know, for telling time, I pretty much always know what time it is, sort of within the next, you know, 10, 15 minutes of where I am. And if I don't know, I pull my phone out of my pocket and then I look at it. So I think it's going to be a tough sell. I think when we get to the Apple Watch, I'm going to say something a little bit different. But I think the 360.
The age of sundials, right? So
age of sundial. No, but I always go from I'm going from my car to something else. I walk into a store. I know what time it is. You know, I know if I'm in there, you know, X amount of time. My phone is always near me. My wife has a watch. You know, there's other aspects of finding out what time it is. So, you know, I just don't. For me, I'm not seeing it. Even at the price point of, you know, $249 or whatever the price point is, but and I think they make the comment in the video that no matter what watch you have, it's still stuck with Android Wear, which is not, you know, and a differentiator between the product lines. So who knows what they're going to do with it?
And I think that the Verge's initial response too was even though it's got the round face, Android doesn't seem to be optimized totally for a round watch, and it you know, it gives it some awkwardness. I've already mentioned the strip around the bottom that you know, it doesn't seem to be able to read, and the LG one doesn't seem to have that problem. So go figure.
Well, I think it's part of the battery bezel or something. They said.
I said LG. I meant Asus. I apologize. Yeah. It's the Asus that's got that one. Okay. All right, man. Hey, let's move on here. Let's talk about the big announcements that went down today, and let's talk about iOS. You know, guys, I've never I've always been pretty honest about it. I'm not a big fan of iOS stuff. With that said, I do own an iPad. I don't really use it, but there's one thing that I've got to say about Apple is they normally, today might have been an exception, but they normally have excellent keynotes. They do a great job of hyping their products, of marketing them very positively right out of the gate, and sometimes they're kind of boring, but other times they've got some new announcements to make. So, Robert, I'm going to ask you, what did you think about the Apple announcement, just the keynote? We'll get into the products in a minute, but what did you think overall of the Apple keynote?
Yeah.
Jabba.
I could not tell you what I thought of the keynote because I didn't get to watch enough of it to form a true opinion. I cannot fathom the number of people that were attempting to stream this and watch it live. I was one of the, I'm sure, millions of people who was extremely frustrated with a stream that started out with Chinese in the beginning, then broke apart multiple times, skipped back and forth to different segments of the live stream. It was unbelievably bad. But the biggest insult, who are you trying to reach? Your Apple fanboys? Or are you trying to convince people who don't have Apple products to buy Apple products? Well, then why did you stream only to those people who have Apple products? I don't know who said that Apple is a marketing genius company, but I think they tripped up really bad. Their execution was horrible from a technological standpoint, and certainly from, we're only going to make it available to people who own Apple products. I think that was a huge, huge faux pas.
Okay, Jeff, your thoughts?
You could just put my head on Robert's body, and we would say exactly the same thing right now. It's ditto, 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 ditto. It was so stupid that they didn't allow it to be streamed from all the different products, like all the different browsers. And yeah, I didn't think that it started out well. I was very frustrated trying to get to different streams, and I ended up doing something, trying to get it in VLC and all these other ways of getting to it, and I actually ended up watching on Twit. And anyways, I thought they could have done a much better job. But again, once we get to the products, it's a different story.
All right.
I'm kind of upset myself.
First of all, Apple has already they always resist live streaming these events, and today is a good reason why. It's my understanding that this company that was live streaming it, they hired them, and I'm betting you that they quietly fired them before it was even over with. Okay, it was pitiful. It was pathetic. I don't even know. I bet you that next year's won't be streamed live. George, you got anything you want to add, man?
The only thing I need to add or would like to add to this, I love it when, I'm a Linux guy, diehard, whatever, but I do own stocks in Microsoft and Apple. Why? Because people will always buy them and they will always make money. I can see the stocks dropping a bit after today, and I didn't even try to get in. I just didn't care. But I know people were in a hangout. I know Chris, who's one of our regulars, had works for them, and he tried to stream it, and he had issues. I guess the thing started late. I don't know what was going on. So I'm upset because I may lose money. Other than that, I really
yeah,
don't
their
care
stock dropped 37
about the
cents,
products
but
or whatever.
yeah.
Well, maybe a penny or three, but there's always Apple fanboys that'll just jump on anything they throw out there. So I'm glad about that. I love that.
Yeah, it was very uncharacteristic of Apple to have so many baubles within the live stream. And Jeff, just like you and Robert already said, at work, I'm confined to IE. Okay, that's all I can use at work. I pulled it up. I saw that I had to have Safari to watch it, and little did I know at the time that even if I had Safari, I still couldn't have watched it. Okay, so I tuned into Twit to the live stream, and even with all the issues, even when it was playing, Twit just they overtalked everything. Okay, I mean at one point they went into this fashion, I don't want to call it a tirade, but on what the guy was wearing, and it was very European, and I'm like,
the pink shirt, and you can still see the wrinkles that he had it tucked in earlier. You mean?
Yeah. Come on, I mean, guys, let's stick with, shut up and let the guys talk if it's actually playing, Anyway, hey, let's talk about the products now. That's really what's most important. Hey, first of all, we got 2 new iPhones today. We got a larger iPhone 6, and then we got an iPhone 6 that's definitely into the phablet realm. And I watched that keynote live where Steve Jobs claimed that 3.5 inches was the perfect size for a phone. It didn't need to be any bigger. And, the trend is that they just all keep getting bigger. Hey, did anyone else notice this? The back of that iPhone 6 looks exactly like the HTC M8. Have y'all noticed that, man? I mean, it's I'm serious, guys. I really believe HTC can sue them and win on this one. Okay?
No, you got that wrong. Apple is going to go back and say, we patented that like 15 years ago. We own that design. We have no clue how you stole it from us.
Yep. But hey, George, let's start with you this time. First of all, did you catch any at all of the keynote?
I caught none of it whatsoever. Not an iota. I had meetings most of the day in work. I probably wouldn't have caught it anyways normally. I mean, unless somebody was streaming it in here and I was just watching it, but I caught 0 of it.
Okay. Listen, I know we're all Android guys, and I mean, don't be afraid to say it, because I'm pretty impressed with the iPhone 6, guys. Doesn't mean I'm going to switch, but I've always said I think iOS is a good mobile operating system. It's just not the one for me. Jeff, jump in here, man.
When they showed the 60 frame, was it 240 frames per second slow-mo of the video? Yeah, I thought that was so cool. I thought they really amped up the camera and the video processing on the phone. I thought that was just spectacular, And I'm always impressed with the phones that can handle do some trick things with video and stuff. And I think they really nailed it on this thing. So the phone looks good. It's priced. It's on the high-end phone, right? But how long do you keep a phone? 3 years, 4 years? A $200 price swing for a couple to 3 years, it might be something to look at. So I really thought they came out with a good product there, and it looked nice. It looked very it was slimmer. The battery life looks stellar. The processing looked good. I mean, it looked like a phone you'd want to own.
64-bit A8 chip. It's the chip itself is 13% smaller than the A7 was, but yet it's improved itself for games. And let's face it, guys, iOS is a whole lot better mobile gaming platform than Android at this point. Yeah. Robert, you want to weigh in here?
Well, I got to tell you, I think that, again, we're at a point where we're not going to see huge technological jumps. It's just not going to happen. Do I think that there were some substantial improvements in the iPhone? Yes. And as far as the price goes, I don't think that the prices are too far out of line. I actually expected them to be a little bit higher. I am surprised that you can land a phone for $199, an iPhone 6. That to me, that's standard Android prices for flagship phones. So I was a little bit surprised. These were priced a little lower than I expected. There were some reasonable improvements that came along, in the camera, in the chip. Battery life is still, a good performer as compared to the iPhone 5. So overall, this was a nice thing. The big add-on, what I was waiting to see, was the NFC chip, and that we'll talk about in the next segment of product releases.
Just real quick, we're talking about price. It's let's get this straight here. The iPhone 6, now not the large one, not the larger one, but the iPhone 6 itself is going to start at $199 for the 16 gigabyte, but it's going to be $399 on a 2-year contract for the 128 gigabyte. Now, guys, we say 128 gigabyte. I actually talked to a coworker today who told me that if iPhone offered this go-round a SD card, micro SD card, he would upgrade, and he's not even eligible for an upgrade. Okay? He said, I need extra storage. When I heard 128 gigabyte, I thought of him, because this is the type of guy. He's very heavily tied to the iTunes ecosystem. Okay, he's got movies, he's got music, and he's all about iTunes. And listen, has owned a lot of Android devices, but he's anyway, I think 128 gigabytes is not unreasonable for a lot of people. I think they will be willing to pay this premium price to have that built-in storage, Listen, typical colors, and hey, also the iPhone 5C is also still available. Hey guys, one more thing. Let's see, you can order them. Let's see, when can you order them? September 7th. 19th. Yes. The iOS 6, or I'm sorry, the iOS 8 will be available the 17th. All right, man. Let's talk about Apple Pay. First of all, guys, I did get to catch most of this on the Twit Network when they weren't talking over it. I was pretty impressed with Apple Pay and how it's going to work. As far as security, I was pretty impressed that these numbers were going to constantly change. In other words, if you went into your neighborhood, Applebee's, and paid for your meal with your iPhone, the number would change right after that. So if anybody tried to steal anything, and I don't think they can anyway, but if they could, that number's not going to work. It's going because it was going to constantly update and constantly change. I've got to say, man, this Apple Pay looks like it's going to do one of two things. It's going to make Google Wallet go away, or it's going to make Google Wallet more legitimate. Robert, I'll let you jump in first on this one.
Well, I think it's going to make Google Wallet more legitimate. One of the things that people have some trouble with is, one, people in general don't like change. But there's a factor of numbers here that has to apply. In order for mobile payments to catch on, we've got to have a wide user base. You can't get a wider user base than Apple iPhone users. Put mobile payments in their hand, and now all of a sudden you have everybody who has that capability. Whether you're using ISIS from Verizon, Google Wallet, or you're using Apple Pay, then now it's going to become a standard. And we're getting to a point where people are starting to recognize the vulnerability, and they talked about this in the presentation, that the card itself, with its number permanently emblazoned, is visible and susceptible to theft at the drop of a hat. Whereas mobile payment systems, if you lose your phone, you can stop transactions instantaneously, along with the protections that are built into the phone itself. Like with the Apple Pay, they have the fingerprint reader. So even if somebody got a hold of your phone, they have the physical device, they still don't have your fingerprint to a transaction. This is like stellar. This just rocks. And even as an Android fanboy, not an Apple fan, I am glad to see Apple put this, in their devices and make it available to the public. One, for security, and two, for expandability, and we can stop, living in ancient technology from 50 years ago.
Okay. Hey, George, what'd you think, man? Google Apple Pay versus Google Wallet, man. What do you think?
I don't know. I'm still a fan of Google Wallet myself. Apple Pay does sound interesting. It'd be really cool if Apple Pay was offered outside of iOS devices, because then it could be used by more people. Right now, Android is more predominant in the market, so I can't really see Google Wallet going away or being crushed by them. They may actually change their standards of how they work. Of course, will Apple offer an actual physical card? Who knows? But I like using NFC off my Nexus. I think it's really cool. I remember a couple of years ago going up to a soda machine, not having any change. I'm tethered to my phone at the time, of course, with the Nexus, but being able to go blip and have a soda drop out and people going, like it was some sort of magic or something, like I hacked it. So, I mean, nowadays, it's you walk into a place and I see the little block where I can pay for a meal or do something just by touching my device to it. I think Google has seen that NFC is cool and that using a monetary or some sort of payment system is the way to go with a device. It gives the device another option, another feature, something that people will use. I think, as always, just they are a little late in the game, but they are catching up. They have cooler technology than Google has with the ever-changing numbers. But I mean, they're both pay systems. I've never had an issue with Google Wallet. I know there's a credit card kind of associated with it, but it's when I'm using the NFC, I can't think that somebody would actually, steal it. In fact, as a matter of fact, when you use it, it tells you just made this transaction on your device, and so I guess if anybody else was like, nearby trying to steal your numbers, you might actually see other transactions come across. I can't see. I think they're both secure. I would be interested in seeing if they had an Android version and possibly using it. I wonder if it's going to be very similar. Are you going to put money into it just like a bank account? Because Google Wallet's just like PayPal. You're throwing money into it and using it, so to speak. So it's kind of like
major banks, including Chase, Bank of America, 22,000 retailers, MasterCard, Visa, and American Express are all on board.
Yeah,
So-
that's one thing Apple has always done. They got their ducks in a row before they made the announcement, So they did that, and they had that other, where they used the secure element, which is, it is part of, almost embedded in the memory of the chip of the phone. So it's another layer of security, and like we talked about here, the rotating token. It's a one-time token that gets generated. You don't have to have any like 4-digit code on the back of your card. All that stuff is just it's smart, and I think they're going to do a better job than Google Wallet. I think they're already accepted. So I think that's going to be something that's Google's in a little, even though Google came first to product, regrettably they didn't execute it as well as Apple is going to execute it.
They didn't seem to get the buy-in that they needed for Google Wallet to really take off, and that's what I say. This could help Google Wallet, okay? Because it really seems legit, and I think Apple's done it. Let's put it this way: if all of this works like Apple presented it to, Apple's probably give all of us a real good reason to stop using cash.
Oh, most definitely. But my question is, if the these NFC devices that are going to be on cash registers, are they going to be able to accept both Apple Pay and Google Wallet? Is it any, I mean, when they have different protocol features within it that says, okay, now this is Google Wallet, we're going to react like this, or go out, so I don't know if that is the case, or it's going to be proprietary to, who's the, like Verifone machines, right, that do the cash register. Are they going to only be able to have one product protocol in it because they're so small and they have to do certain things? They typically only run one program that goes out to the bank, and then the bank does the magic, right? They read the magnetic strip, but they don't have different dialing procedures, so usually go through a service.
I wouldn't be surprised if I'm going to say 6 to 8 years from now, Apple doesn't have its own bank. Okay, there'll be something that's happening that they can't control, and they'll figure out that if they have a bank, they can control it. And hey, listen, they're big enough and smart enough to do it. You know what I'm saying?
They are a bank.
I don't even know. Well, I don't even know if this is true, but most large companies, including ones I've worked for, and I work for a bank now, so they have a bank, but have a credit union or something attached to them. So it's possible they already have that in place. They just need to enlarge it to encompass the outside world as well. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't work for Apple. I mean, maybe Chris or somebody can fill me in on, do they actually have a credit union internally? But they may already have a structure in place. I mean, it probably wouldn't even be unheard of if they gobbled up a smaller or mid-range bank just to deal with that structure. I mean,
if they had a bank, it'd be an offshore bank.
Well, I don't think it would be offshore. I mean, it might be. I mean, they might just go out and buy a Dutch bank or something like that.
No, I'm joking for taxes. Just
George, I like that, and the more I think of it, the funnier I think it is. Hey, if they don't have a bank, they've got enough money to buy one. So
just gobble one up. And I'm not saying a large bank. They might just gobble up some Midwestern, in 10 states type of thing or something like that, and just go, it's ours now, and make the bank larger, and voila, it could probably beat out the bank I work for, or any other number of large banks that are like in the top 3 banks.
Listening to Twit, I liked Mike Elgin when he said instead of when Apple pay Apple. So.
Well, and here's the other thing too. As an example, if you go to your Google Wallet and you wanted to add money to it, there's a fee, there's a charge. So like $100 is like maybe $2, $3 or something like that. If they're gonna have a section where it's not associated with one of your credit cards and you want to add a balance to it, are they going to charge you a fee? Of course they probably are. PayPal I don't think does.
No, they're going to take a transaction.
Does.
No, I'd imagine they take a transaction fee like any other processing company, because then they're a processing
because it's
company.
based off a credit card transaction fee. But say if you add a bank account, are they going to charge you? Are they not going to charge you? With Google Wallet, I believe it's credit cards to Google Wallet. But
I'm sure they charge the merchant for the transaction.
Yeah, well, there's got to be a merchant code. Yeah.
Yeah. They'll make a piece on both sides.
Hey guys, let's cover one more thing here. Did y'all catch that?
Yes,
I did.
One more thing here before we go into our apps. Hey, after 2 years worth of rumors, Bloomberg confirming they had over 100 engineers working on it. Guys, we got to see what we've called to this point the iWatch. From now on, it's going to be called the Apple Watch. The Apple Watch is actually Apple Watches. There's 2 versions. And the one thing that really jumped out at me about this watch is you've got a short press and a long press. The long press is kind of like the right mouse button to give you other options. First of all, the pictures that I've seen of this watch on wrists, it looks much more attractive than the Moto 360, okay? That just looks gargantuan on anybody's wrist. I mean, I still yet think about, the Samsung keynote with that poor skinny woman and she had that the gear on her wrist, and I mean it looked huge. So
Yeah. Looked like she was scuba diving.
yeah, yeah. Well, especially when she put that VR on, she looked like she was ready for, all she lacked was flippers and a snorkel. Honestly, the watch has, we're not going to see it till early next year. I think this gives Android Wear still yet. I mean, they got a head start and they've got momentum, and I think Apple is playing catch up here. The one thing, this watch is going to start at $350. And Bruce, I'm just going to ask you. None of us here are fans of Apple. We're not necessarily fans of smart watches. But what was your take on the Apple Watch?
Slick, very Johnny Ives quality. But still, $350 for a watch. I don't know. I mean, it is no doubt about it. It had Apple class all over the thing. I mean, with exchangeable bands. Really, it was very smooth. When I watched the keynote, as far as how it worked. But I, I think they made it very clear that Apple's not worried about the low end of the market. They're going after the middle to upper end of the market, and there'll be some people who pay $349 for it, but not me.
All right, hey Jeff, jump in here, man. Is this something you buy and take back?
This would be something I'd buy and maybe keep, actually, if I really liked it. Okay, because I'm not a watch wearer, but there is a couple things I thought that they did really, really well. And again, I go back to the video thing. I think it's kind of cool that your watch will actually be a viewfinder for your camera. I thought that was very cool. And I thought the way they used that, I don't know how my fingers would work on that crown piece to toggle through and do the scrolling and zooming in and zooming out. But I liked the concept of it way better than touching the screen and trying to make it bigger and doing it. So I liked how their approach is way better than I liked the Android Wear. I have to say that they approached it in a different way, and I think it looked better. But I could imagine when they had all those little icons on the watch to go through and scroll through. I'm going to look. Am I going to get a Twitter feed on my watch? No, I can't see anything. So. But they did explain that the display was going to be brighter and clearer and crisper. And when I watched the Verge review on the 360, they said that the screen was granular. It didn't look really clear. So maybe a clearer, crisper screen, you can see some things on it. So there's a couple features I thought was very good. And I'm still into the Apple Fit kind of thing. So we'll see what happens. Like they said, there's going to be a ton of developers developing to this watch. There'll be a lot of apps. There'll be a lot of stuff. And I think people are going to say, why am I developing something in Android Wear when I'm going to be developing over here? So there's going to be a little bit of a resource drain going over from Android to this for a developer. If I'm a developer, would I rather get more bang for my buck? Well, this watch is going to sell like hotcakes when it comes out in January. It will.
No, we don't know that.
I do. I think so. I think so.
For $350, you think this watch is going to sell like hotcakes? I
do. I think people will be lined up outside the door to get it.
Anybody else want to weigh in on this?
Yeah, wearables are wearing on me. I'm just really getting sick of it. I mean, I haven't seen anything. I'm just, that's just me. I think wearables are not going to do well at all, ever, personally. I just don't see it.
I agree. I mean, they're going to have a market. There are people going to wear them. There's the athletic ones. There's all different types of wearables. There's some third-party ones been out there forever. There's Android-based ones. I mean, everybody's coming out with one because they are. But I'm with you. I think it's a fad. I don't think it's as much of a market as people think it is or will be. Jeff's going to disagree with me. And he's going to disagree with
I'm not going to buy the watch, but I think it's going to be a hit. I think
you
you're going
want
to
to
see
know something? I wish you were right, Jeff. I wish everybody would buy this watch because then my stocks will fly through the roof. Because I personally won't buy it. But I don't care.
Here again, I think that even though this thing is heavy on health, and I think it is in a lot of ways innovative, it still relies on an iPhone to work, just like some of our criticisms of Android Wear. But this thing is priced almost double what a lot of this Android Wear that we've been criticizing is priced. And listen, we're not alone in our thinking on Android Wear. A lot of people agree with us, and if they agree with us on a $250 device, I'm pretty sure they're going to really agree with us on a $400 device.
But
and
then but
starts, okay, it goes up.
Yes, and I agree with the prices but I'm saying that their fan base, right, or their customer base is not price sensitive.
Jeff, I am an Android fan, but I don't have an Android Wear watch.
Exactly.
There's
just saying.
Apple fans that won't buy a watch just because they're Apple fans.
I don't know about that. Because we're talking to a different crowd. We're talking to people that go line up that want the next best thing. They camp out for days.
I think you're too close. You must be breathing some of the atmosphere from Cupertino or something like that. You think about a college student. What kind of laptop do you want when you go up to school? I want a MacBook, Mommy and Daddy. Okay, what kind of phone you want? I want an iPhone. Oh, Mommy and Daddy, there's a $350 watch that just came out. I want that too.
Yes, but we've all said, I'm gonna call us all out on what we've from various shows. Bruce, you said many times that every time you're on an airplane, you see an iPad. Even though we all have Androids, okay? So
I see a lot more Android tablets now.
But I am saying that at certain times, I am not going to buy a watch, but I think there's going to be a big market. I think they're going to be selling them. They will sell them. They will sell them. They are better at anyone at marketing to their fan base. How do you think they are so good? They create demand. People want it. People are going to start pre-ordering this thing in October.
People are growing weary of all the social media inundation on their life, and they're going to want to wear this. I don't care if it does just give them a little buzz instead of the guy next to me doesn't know I'm getting notification.
Honey, I'm just going to tap you, and that's me thinking about you. I'm going to tap you over here. I'm going to do a little display right at here, and it'll pixelate out here and show up on your wrist over there magically.
Hey, you know what my wife
wants? There's going to be
wants?
all this stuff that, these little niche. Yeah, it's gonna be like there, and that's my husband, and I can actually feel his heart. I can feel his heart beating on my watch. That's
how much ridiculous. This is the stupidest bunch of stuff I've ever seen.
But that's what's gonna sell. People are gonna buy this stuff. I'm gonna channel Woody.
And zombies
Woody
are
Allen,
real.
People want this. People want to have it. No, man.
Wow.
It's true.
Let's here's the beauty of it. Jeff's on record now.
I'm on record, buddy.
And we're on record as disagreeing with him. Let's about February, March, let's revisit this. I mean, because I don't think Jeff's totally off. I think that initially a lot of people will buy this watch. I just don't think that this watch will stay at $350.
Well, nothing stays at that price point.
No, I'm with you, Duke, and I really, really wish Jeff was right. I really do, because I want my stock to fly through the roof with all the fanboys buying it. So.
Jeff agrees with iJustine, so there you go.
There you go. Jeff agrees with anyone except for us.
Hey, I could feel
if it's in his room.
I love. What's funny? Well, before you play that, Duke, there was something about Mike Elgin and Twit when they were showing all these beautiful models running, and they were talking about, you could tap it. He's going, I tapped that. It's like.
Yeah.
All
I
right.
thought that was funny. All right, good.
Moving
Just
on.
like Elgin
Hey,
plugs.
guys. Hey, we are Tech and Coffee, and come visit us over at techandcoffee.info. We hang out daily, love to talk tech, and got a great little community going. Love for you to come join us, and we're looking forward to meeting you. You can also follow us on Twitter and Facebook at Tech and Coffee One. Our YouTube channel is Tech and Coffee. Hey, open up Google Plus, search for Tech and Coffee, look for that gorgeous TNC logo, and hey man, follow us. We'll follow you. Catch our podcast on Stitcher Radio and iTunes. Any questions, comments, snide remarks, send them to AJ at techandcoffee.info. And hey, we're getting ready to do an app segment, and let us know what is your favorite app this week. We will give you some Tech and Coffee swag, maybe something like this Tech and Coffee coffee cup right here. Yeah, man. So, hey, hear from us. Also, let us know hey, what podcast you listen to, what podcasting app, and we'll make sure that we're on it. I know right now we're on Stitcher, we're on Player FM, several others. Let us know your favorites so we can make sure that we're on it. Hey, guys, we're going to hit some apps, and Bruce, why don't you kick it off, man? What's your app this week?
I will kick it off. My app of the week is Mixler. I've been waiting for this a long time. Mixler is a great way to broadcast a live audio stream. The quality is really good. It's 96 kbps. They've got great window apps. You can build together a playlist, and you don't even have to have a mixer. You can actually play audio through their app. But everybody was wondering, when are they going to come out with an app for Android? And so they have come out with an app for Android, and I'll show you, basically what it looks like here. This is the Mixler app on my phone, and the cool thing about this is that you can do a live audio stream. Now, we all know that, I've got the Bamboozer app. I can do a live video stream. There's a Ustream app and that sort of thing. I know I can do a Hangout, with my phone. But if I just want to do an audio podcast, now you can do it on your phone. And here's what's really cool. You take something like this dongle right here, which plugs into the earphone jack and gives me an opportunity to take an XLR microphone like the one I'm using right now, the Audio-Technica AT2005 USB, plug my headphones in here, and I can not only do an audio show, but I can do a quality audio show using the Mixler app. And so it's a great app. I encourage you to check out, especially if you want to do something live on audio. And when people go to your page for Mixler on your website, your channel, it's got a chat there so they can interact with you. I think it's a great audio live streaming app, Mixler.
Very good, Bruce. Mixler, and I've downloaded Mixler and have yet to had a good chance to try it out. But
well, it came out in beta a couple of weeks ago, and now they just released beta 1.0.5. So there's been 3 releases since they initially launched. So they're really committed to getting this right.
All right, very good. Thank you, Bruce. George, you got an app this week?
I sure do. It's called Hipmunk. Hipmunk. You probably can't see it, but there's Hipmunk. Hipmunk is an application. It's a travel application. It allows you to find cheap flights or hotels, or inexpensive flights or hotels. They're based off the Hipmunk website. A lot of people probably use them. I'm using them to look for a hotel right now in Oxford for an extra day or two. I'm going to stay in the city proper. I'm traveling soon overseas, so I figured I'm going to use that as a picture op and just take some pictures of Oxford proper and hang out. So I was using this to go and find the stuff, and I figured, hey, I'll just throw that app in there. So check it out, Hipmunk. You can get it on the Play Store. It's also available for iOS, being we're talking about iOS as well. So.
Actually, George, the first time I heard about it was Sarah Lane on the Twit Network was doing I think it was like a little iPad thing talking about Hipmunk and how much she liked it when she traveled and how she relied on it. So I have heard good things about that app, sure enough.
Yeah, it's really good. I've actually just looked and I found some really cheap flights for some travel even after that I was looking at. So it's really good. It saves me a lot of time, and I can at least use it on my tablet too, instead of just checking out the website.
All right, very good. All right, guys, my app this week is the Amazon Instant Video Prime app. Just came out, released today for Android. And let's see.
Wait. I believe this, Jeff. That's our cue. Boo.
Yes. Doesn't work. Doesn't really work. Doesn't work on tablets.
It doesn't work on tablets. It doesn't work across all Android devices. But hey, listen, we've been waiting about 3.5 years now for it to work, period, on mobile. So I'm just glad to see that it's starting to happen. Anyway, I've got it up here, and I'm going to hit the instant video. And here you go. You're going to see it coming in here. And it's typical of Prime. Not everything that you see here is free. And, you know, they've got some pilots. They've got a lot of the HBO stuff. And let me get here. Let's see. Shop latest TV shows, comedy. The HBO collection on Prime. Here's The Sopranos. And
Doc Martin.
Doc Martin is a paid app. I've already looked, George.
Season 2 isn't, though.
Right. You can purchase it right from your device. But here we go. The Sopranos. I'm hitting episode 1 here. And you can see it's going to take off. And don't want to get myself in trouble here. But yeah, hey, guess what, man? Amazon Prime right here on my device, my Nexus 5, and it's playing. We've been waiting a long time for Amazon to release a mobile app for something other than the Fire series. And finally, it's happened. Not going to promise it's going to work for you, but it's working for me.
It doesn't work on my Nexus 7, so forget about it.
Yes,
it works wonderfully on my Note 2.
And speaking, one last thing, I just want everyone to know that the LG Watch just dropped their price $50 after the, so their smartwatch. $50. So now you can buy it for $79.
We're all doing the Sopranos thing. Forget about it. $50.
$179 for the LG watch. Hey Jeff, before we call it a show, man, what about the talking about Amazon? What do you think about the Amazon Fire Phone on AT&T dropping from $200
to 99 cents
to 99 cents, man? Yeah.
I thought that was spectacular. I think it's I think that's a great, a great deal. Yeah, and you still get Amazon Prime for a year for the 99 cents. So I mean, it's a great deal if you wanted to switch carriers.
Why do you think that that the price dropped on that?
Because no one bought the phone.
Anybody else want to weigh in on that one?
Because nobody bought the phone.
And Apple, I think they want to steal a little Apple thunder. They probably know that Apple's, always seems to, garner a lot of stuff. So, anyone want to guess what LG Watch dropped $50?
That might have been because of Apple, but Amazon dropped the price because the phone is not selling. Period.
But now, like we said earlier, you can get a 5C for no money down, just a 2-year contract. Apple
no money
5C.
down.
No money down.
Get you a 5C for 99 cents, Jeff, and then you can buy that $350 phone because it'll work with a 5C. Doesn't that make you happy?
It would.
I'll
be. You know what it's going to be? I'm going to have Google Glass and my phone.
I'm getting sick of this. I love Jeff. He's being the whipping boy in the last 72 episodes, and I feel sorry for you. Actually, I don't. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Someone has to be the voice of reason.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it doesn't come out of California.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, guys, man, come to techandcoffee.info. Check us out. Hey, follow us on Twitter, Facebook at Tech and Coffee 1. Hey, search for us on Google+. Search for Tech and Coffee. Look for that TNC logo. Hey, catch us on Stitcher Radio. Catch us on iTunes. Hey, let us know which app's your favorite. You could win some Tech and Coffee swag. Hey, guys, have a great week. We will catch you in 7. Peace out.